You know, there's something quite fascinating that happens when you're single in a world that seems to be pairing off all around you. Your friends are getting married, your colleagues are settling down, your family is asking when you'll find someone, and society at large is looking at you with a mixture of pity and concern, as if being alone is a problem that needs urgent solving. And yet, inside, you feel something unexpected. Not the desperate loneliness they're projecting onto you, not the frantic need to couple up that they seem to think you should have, but rather peace. A strange, quiet peace that nobody seems to understand. A contentment in your solitude that looks from the outside like resignation or denial or fear, but from the inside feels like the most honest thing you've ever experienced. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how people react when you tell them you're genuinely happy being single? They don't quite believe you. They nod sympathetically, as if you're putting on a brave face. They assure you that the right person will come along. They tell you not to give up hope, as if your contentment is actually depression in disguise, as if peace is really just despair dressed up nicely. But what if it's not? What if the peace you feel in your singleness is actually more real, more grounded, more authentic than the frantic coupling that's happening all around you? What if you've discovered something that most people miss in their rush to find the one? This is what I want to explore. Not singleness as a problem, not singleness as a waiting room for relationship, but singleness as a complete state of being, as a valid way of moving through life, as something that can be, strange as it sounds, deeply peaceful in a world that insists it should be anything but. Now, the world has very strong opinions about singleness, and those opinions are almost universally negative. Being single past a certain age is treated as a kind of failure, a problem to be fixed, a gap to be filled. Society has decided that humans come in pairs, and if you're not paired, something must be wrong with you. You're told you're too picky, too damaged, too afraid, too something. The message is clear: normal people couple up, and if you haven't, you need to work on whatever's broken in you so you can finally achieve this basic milestone of human existence. And if you internalize these messages, if you believe them, then of course being single feels terrible. It feels like you're failing at life, like you're missing out on the essential human experience, like you're waiting for your real life to begin while watching everyone else already living theirs. But what if you don't internalize these messages? What if you question them instead? What if you look around at all these coupled people and ask, quite sincerely, are they actually happier? Are they actually more complete? Are they actually living more fully than you are? And when you look honestly, when you really observe, what do you see? You see a lot of compromise, a lot of performance, a lot of people who've merged their lives with someone else's and lost themselves in the process. You see people staying in relationships out of fear of being alone. You see people who haven't been genuinely themselves in years because they're too busy being who their partner needs them to be. You see people who are technically together but functionally alone, who share a bed but not a real connection, who've built a life together but lost the aliveness in the process. You see people going through the motions of coupledom while being just as lonely, perhaps more lonely than you are in your singleness. And you realize something. The peace you feel isn't despite being single. It's because you're single, because you haven't made those compromises, haven't lost yourself in someone else, haven't traded your authenticity for the appearance of togetherness. You're alone, yes, but you're not abandoned. You're not with yourself by default, you're with yourself by choice. And that choice, that willingness to be genuinely alone rather than falsely together, that's where the peace comes from. Let me tell you what this peace feels like. It's waking up on a Sunday morning and the day being entirely yours, not needing to negotiate how to spend it, not needing to accommodate someone else's preferences or moods or needs, Just you and the day and the space to do exactly what feels right in each moment. It's coming home to silence and feeling that silence as restful rather than oppressive. It's being able to hear your own thoughts without someone else's voice, constantly interpreting or questioning or redirecting them. It's the absence of that low-level background noise of another person's emotional state that you're always having to monitor and respond to. It's the freedom to change without having to explain, to grow without having to manage someone else's anxiety about your growth, to become without having to bring someone along who might not want to go where you're going. It's the simplicity of life being just your life, not our life, with all the complications and negotiations and compromises that our requires. Just your life, straightforward and clean and yours. Now, this probably sounds selfish to a lot of people, and maybe it is selfish in the conventional sense. But there's another way to look at it. Maybe the peace of being single comes from not using another person to complete yourself, from not making someone else responsible for your happiness, from not demanding that another human being fill all the holes in your psyche. Because isn't that what most coupling is really about? Two incomplete people trying to complete each other. Two people with unmet needs, hoping the other will meet them. Two people bringing all their wounds and fears and emptiness into a relationship and expecting that relationship to heal them. And when you're genuinely at peace being single, you've given up on that project. You're not looking for someone to complete you because you've discovered you're already complete. You're not looking for someone to make you happy because you've found happiness in yourself. You're not looking for someone to give your life meaning because you've discovered meaning in the simple fact of being alive. This is revolutionary. Because most people never find this. They go from their parents' house to a relationship, to marriage, to family, never spending significant time genuinely alone, never discovering who they are when they're not performing for someone else, never finding that they're actually okay more than okay on their own. So they bring their incompleteness into relationship. They bring their neediness, their dependence, their requirement that someone else make them feel whole. And then they wonder why relationships are so difficult, why there's so much conflict, why it's so hard to maintain that initial spark of connection. It's because they're asking one person to do what only they can do for themselves. They're trying to use relationship to solve the problem of their own emptiness. And it doesn't work. It can't work. Because another person can't complete you. They can only meet you. And you can only be met to the degree that you're already whole. This is what you've discovered in your singleness. You've discovered your own wholeness. And once you've found that, once you've really touched that, the desperate need to couple up disappears. You might still be open to relationship. You might still desire connection, but you don't need it. And that's a completely different energy. When you need relationship, you'll take anything. You'll settle. You'll compromise yourself. You'll stay in things that aren't working because being with someone, anyone, feels better than being alone. The need makes you desperate. And desperation makes you do things you know aren't right for you. But when you're at peace being single, you can be selective. You can have standards. You can say no to things that don't truly serve you because you're not operating from lack. You're not trying to fill a hole. You're already full, and you're only interested in connection that adds to that fullness rather than draining it. Let me tell you what happens when you're at this kind of peace. People find it disturbing. Your contentment challenges their whole worldview. If you can be genuinely happy alone, it suggests that maybe they don't need to be coupled up either. Maybe they're staying in their relationships out of fear rather than love. Maybe they've made compromises they didn't need to make. So they try to pull you back into the fold. They set you up with people. They tell you about dating apps. They express concern about your future. They paint dire pictures of old age alone. They do everything they can to convince you that your peace is really just denial, that your contentment is really just fear in disguise. And if you let them, They'll make you doubt yourself. They'll make you question whether this peace you feel is real or whether you're just fooling yourself. They'll make you wonder if maybe you should be trying harder to find someone, if maybe you should be more concerned about ending up alone. But here's what you know, deep down. This peace is real. It's not denial. It's not fear. It's not giving up. It's actually the opposite of all those things. It's acceptance. It's presence. It's being genuinely okay with what is rather than constantly striving for what isn't. And there's something else. This peace comes from having your life be yours, from not having to constantly negotiate your choices with someone else, from not having to consider another person's feelings in every decision you make, from not having to manage the emotional labor of a relationship. Because let's be honest about something. Relationships are work, real work. Not the romantic comedy version where love conquers all and everything flows effortlessly, but actual daily work of communication, compromise, conflict resolution, emotional regulation, need balancing, expectation managing. It's a second job that you never clock out from. And maybe you've decided you don't want that job. Maybe you've looked at what it requires and decided that your energy is better spent elsewhere, on yourself, on your own growth, on your own interests, on your own becoming. And there's nothing wrong with that choice. In fact, there's something deeply sane about it. Because what's the point of being in a relationship if it diminishes rather than enhances your life? What's the point of coupling up if it means less peace, less freedom, less authenticity than you have alone? The standard narrative says that relationship adds to your life. But what if, for you, it actually subtracts? What if you've run the numbers and realized that the cost of relationship, the compromise, the accommodation, the constant negotiation, the loss of autonomy is simply higher than the benefits? What if you've decided that the peace you have alone is more valuable than the companionship you might have coupled? This is a radical position to take, because society doesn't really have a category for people who choose singleness, not as a temporary state, but as a valid way of being. We have categories for people who are single while looking for relationship. We have categories for people who are single because they're damaged or difficult. But we don't really have a category for people who are single because they genuinely prefer it. So you become uncategorizable. And this makes people uncomfortable. They don't know how to relate to you. They don't know where to put you in their mental map of how life works. So they either pity you or admire you, but they rarely just accept you, rarely see your choice as simply one valid way among many of moving through life. And this can be lonely in its own way. Not the loneliness of being without a partner, but the loneliness of being misunderstood by everyone around you, of having your peace interpreted as sadness, of having your contentment treated as denial, of having your choice invalidated over and over again by people who can't imagine that someone might genuinely be okay alone. But here's where the peace deepens, because eventually you stop needing others to validate your choice. You stop needing them to understand. You stop trying to convince them that you're really okay. You just know you're okay. And their inability to see it becomes their problem, not yours. This is true independence, not the independence of being able to live without a partner. Lots of people can do that. But the independence of being able to live without the approval of the coupled world, of being able to stand in your truth even when everyone around you is insisting you must be wrong. And from this independence comes an even deeper peace, because you're not just at peace with being single, you're at peace with being misunderstood, at peace with swimming against the current, at peace with walking a path that most people can't even see as a path. Let me tell you something about the quality of time when you're peacefully single. It's different than the quality of time when you're in relationship. When you're coupled, time is always divided. There's time with your partner, time alone, time negotiating between the two. And even your alone time is colored by your relationship. You're thinking about them, missing them, planning for when you'll see them again, or dealing with conflict from when you last saw them. But when you're genuinely single, time is whole. It's all yours. There's no division, no negotiation, no guilt about wanting more alone time, or anxiety about spending too much time alone. Time just flows naturally according to your own rhythms and needs and desires. You can spend an entire Sunday reading if you want, or walking, or doing nothing at all. And there's no one to answer to, no one who's feeling neglected, no one who thinks you should be doing something different. Just you and time in a natural, unforced relationship. This creates a particular quality of peace that's hard to describe to people who've never experienced it. It's not the peace of having everything you want. It's the peace of wanting what you have, of your life being exactly what it is without constant pressure to make it into something else. When you're coupled, there's always this narrative of the relationship evolving, moving forward, going somewhere. Dating to exclusive, to moving in together, to engagement, to marriage, to children, to whatever comes next. There's always a next step, always something more the relationship should become. But when you're single, you can just be. There's no progression you're supposed to be making, no milestones you're supposed to be hitting, no story arc your life is supposed to be following. Just this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment. And in that presentness, there's profound peace. Now, I can hear the objection, but what about intimacy? What about connection? What about physical touch? What about having someone who really knows you? Aren't you missing all of that? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, you're missing the particular form those things take in romantic partnership. But that doesn't mean you're missing intimacy or connection or touch or being known. It just means you're finding those things in different ways. Intimacy with yourself, connection with friends, with strangers, with nature, with the present moment. Touch through massage, through dance, through your own hands on your own body. Being known through the work of truly knowing yourself, through conversations with people who see you clearly, even if they're not sleeping in your bed. These aren't lesser versions of the partnered experience. They're different versions. And once you stop measuring them against the romantic ideal, once you stop seeing them as consolation prizes for not having a relationship, you can appreciate them for what they are valuable forms of human experience. And here's something interesting. The people who are most at peace, being single, often have rich, deep connections in their lives. They're not isolated. They're not cut off. They've just distributed their intimacy needs across multiple people and experiences rather than concentrating them all in one romantic partner. And there's something healthier about this, actually, because no one person can be everything to another person. The romantic ideal of you're my everything is actually a terrible burden to place on someone. It's asking them to be partner, best friend, therapist, cheerleader, co-parent, lover, business partner, entertainment director, and life coach all rolled into one. When you're peacefully single, you're not asking one person to be everything. You're letting different people and experiences meet different needs. Your friend who makes you laugh, your friend who you have deep conversations with, your creative work that gives you meaning, your spiritual practice that gives you peace, your body practices that give you connection to the physical, your time in nature that gives you perspective. All of these together create a rich, full life. And none of them require you to compromise yourself in the ways that romantic partnership often does. You can show up fully to each one. You can be completely yourself without having to edit or perform or accommodate. This is the strange piece of being single when everyone else is coupled. You're not doing what everyone else is doing. You're not following the prescribed path. You're not checking the boxes that society says you should check. And yet, you're at peace, genuinely at peace. Not pretending, not compensating, not in denial, just at peace. And this peace has a quality that coupled people often envy when they're honest with themselves. Because you're not maintaining anything. You're not working on your relationship. You're not processing conflict. You're not negotiating needs. You're not managing someone else's emotional state. You're just living your life in a relatively straightforward way. There's a simplicity to singleness that partnership complicates. Not that complications are bad. Sometimes complications are rich and meaningful, but sometimes they're just complicated. And the peace of not having those complications, of not having to work through them constantly, that's real. Let me tell you about the freedom that creates this peace. It's the freedom to change direction on a whim, to move to a new city if you feel called, to take a job in another country, to completely reorganize your life without having to consider another person's career or family or preferences. It's the freedom to have bad days without worrying about how your mood is affecting someone else, to be grumpy or withdrawn or melancholy without having to explain or apologize or manage someone else's worry about whether they've done something wrong. It's the freedom to explore without having to bring someone along, to go deep into interests that your partner might not share, to become someone your current partner might not understand, to evolve in directions that would create tension in a relationship. It's the freedom to be completely spontaneous, to say yes to an invitation without checking with someone first, to make plans without negotiation, to spend money on things you want without justification. These might seem like small freedoms, but they add up to something significant. They add up to a life that's genuinely yours, that reflects your actual preferences and values and rhythms without being filtered through relationship dynamics. And there's profound peace in living a life that's simply, straightforwardly, uncomplicatedly yours. Now, none of this means that relationship is bad or wrong or something to be avoided. For some people, at certain times, with the right person, relationship can be extraordinary, can be worth all the compromise and complication, can add more than it subtracts. But what I'm saying is this: if you've found genuine peace in being single, don't let anyone tell you that peace is a problem. Don't let anyone convince you that you're missing out or incomplete or need to keep searching for partnership. Don't let society's insistence that everyone should be coupled make you doubt what you know to be true about yourself. Because what you found, this strange peace of being single in a coupled world, is actually quite rare. Most people are too afraid of being alone to discover it, too conditioned by social pressure to explore it, too convinced that partnership is the only path to fulfillment, to even consider that another path might exist. But you've discovered it. Through whatever combination of circumstances and choices and inner work, you found your way to this peace. And that's not something to apologize for or hide or feel defensive about. That's something to honor, something to protect, something to treasure. You've discovered that you're not half of a couple waiting to be completed. You're a whole human being, fully alive, fully present, fully engaged with existence. And that wholeness doesn't need a partner to validate it. It's already valid, already complete, already enough. This is the strange peace. Strange because it's so contrary to everything you've been told. Peace because it's true. And truth, even when it's unusual, even when it's misunderstood, even when it's lonely sometimes, always brings a kind of peace that lies and pretense and conformity never can. Let me tell you about something else that happens in this peace. You start to see the coupled world with different eyes. Not with judgment, necessarily, though sometimes there's judgment there, but with clarity. You see, the games people play to maintain their relationships, the small lies, the gentle deceptions, the ways they edit themselves to keep the peace. You see couples at restaurants, sitting across from each other in silence, both on their phones. You see the way they've run out of things to say to each other but haven't admitted it. You see the performance of togetherness that hides the reality of disconnection. You see friends in relationships who've stopped growing because growth would disrupt the equilibrium, who've stopped pursuing their dreams because their dreams don't fit into the couple narrative, who've become half of something instead of remaining whole in themselves. And you feel grateful, grateful that you're not performing that performance, grateful that you're not making those compromises, grateful that you're still whole, still growing, still pursuing whatever calls to you without having to consider whether it works for someone else. This gratitude deepens the peace because you're not just accepting your singleness, you're actively appreciating it. You're recognizing it as a gift rather than a lack. You're seeing what you have rather than what you don't have. And this shift in perspective changes everything. When you see singleness as lack, as emptiness, as waiting, it feels terrible. But when you see it as fullness, as freedom, as completion, it feels like the most natural thing in the world. You start to notice things about yourself that you couldn't notice when you were coupled or desperately seeking to be coupled. You notice your own rhythms when you're naturally energetic, when you need rest, when you're creative, when you need solitude. You notice your actual preferences, not the preferences you perform for someone else. You discover that you like different things than you thought you did, that maybe you don't actually enjoy going out as much as you thought. You just went out because your partner wanted to. That maybe you do enjoy certain solitary activities that you dismissed as boring when you were trying to be interesting to someone else. You start living from the inside out rather than from the outside in. Your life becomes an expression of your inner truth rather than a performance for an external audience. And this authenticity, this alignment between inner and outer, this is where real peace lives. There's something else I want to tell you about. The peace of being single comes partly from not having to witness someone else's suffering. This sounds callous, perhaps, but it's real. When you love someone, when you're partnered with someone, you have to watch them struggle. You have to feel their pain. You have to carry some of their emotional weight, whether you want to or not. And if they're going through difficult times, and everyone goes through difficult times, you're going through it with them. Their depression becomes your problem. Their anxiety affects your peace. Their struggles become struggles you have to help manage, even when you'd rather just be dealing with your own life. When you are single, you're only responsible for your own emotional state. You can have empathy for others. You can help when asked, but you're not entangled in someone else's psychological weather in the way you are in partnership. There's a freedom in that, a lightness, a simplicity that allows for peace. And before someone accuses me of being cold or unloving, let me be clear. This isn't about not caring about others. It's about recognizing that there's a difference between caring about someone from a distance and being enmeshed in their daily emotional reality. Both have value, but they're different. And sometimes the distance allows for more clarity, more objectivity, more ability to actually be helpful rather than getting pulled into the drama. When you're at peace being single, you can love people without needing to merge with them. You can support them without losing yourself in their problems. You can maintain your own center while still being present for others. And this is actually a more mature form of love than the entangled neediness that often passes for intimacy in relationships. Let me tell you about the nights, because this is when the peace is tested. During the day, there's enough distraction, enough activity, enough engagement with life that being single feels fine. But at night, when everything is quiet and you're alone in your bed, that's when the doubts can creep in. That's when you might wonder if you're lying to yourself, if this peace is real, or if you're just protecting yourself from the vulnerability of relationship, if you're missing out on something essential by choosing to be alone. But here's what I've discovered. If you stay with those feelings instead of running from them, if you really let yourself feel the aloneness without trying to fix it or escape it, something shifts. The aloneness stops feeling like loneliness and starts feeling like presence, like being fully with yourself in a way that's actually quite intimate. You discover that you can hold yourself. that you can comfort yourself, that you can be companion enough for yourself, not in a sad, making do kind of way, but in a genuine recognition that you're never actually alone, that consciousness itself is always here, always present, always holding you. And from this recognition, the need for another person to hold you, to comfort you, to keep the existential loneliness at bay that need softens. You realize you've been trying to use relationship to solve a problem that relationship can't actually solve. The fundamental aloneness of being a separate consciousness in a separate body, another person can't fix that. They can only distract you from it temporarily. But when you're single and you stop running from that fundamental aloneness, when you turn toward it instead of away from it, you find something unexpected. You find that the aloneness is not actually a problem. It's just how things are. It's the basic condition of being human. And once you stop treating it as a problem that needs solving, once you stop trying to use another person to escape it, it loses its sting. You can be alone at night and feel held by existence itself, held by the darkness, held by the silence, held by your own awareness. And this is enough, more than enough. It's actually quite beautiful. This is the deepest level of the strange peace. Not just being okay with being single on the surface, but being at peace with the fundamental existential condition that being single makes you face directly. The condition that coupled people are often using their partnership to avoid facing. And once you've faced it, once you've made peace with it, you are free in a way that most people never experience. You're not using relationship to escape yourself. You're not using another person to complete yourself. You're not depending on external connection to fill an internal void. You're just here, complete, present, at peace. Let me tell you about how this peace affects the way you move through the world. When you're desperately seeking partnership, there's a neediness that people can smell. It's in your eyes, your energy, your interactions. You're scanning every social situation for potential partners. You're performing yourself to be attractive. You're available, but in a hungry way that actually repels people. But when you're at peace being single, that neediness disappears. You're not looking for anything. You're not trying to attract anyone. You're just being yourself, naturally, without performance. And paradoxically, this often makes you more attractive, because people are drawn to someone who's complete in themselves, who doesn't need them but might enjoy them. The energy is completely different. It's relaxed, open, available but not desperate. And this creates a quality of interaction that's much more genuine than the interactions that happen when someone's hunting for a relationship. You can talk to people without a hidden agenda. You can enjoy conversations without calculating whether this person might be a potential partner. You can be friendly without it being interpreted as flirtation or seen as leading someone on. You can just be human with other humans, without all the complicated mating dance dynamics. And this simplicity is refreshing for you and for others. People relax around you because they can sense you don't want anything from them. You're not trying to use them to fill some void in yourself. You're just present. And presence is rare enough that when people encounter it, they often treasure it. There's another aspect to this peace that I want to explore. It's the peace of not having your self-worth tied to whether someone wants you. When you're seeking relationship, every rejection feels like a judgment on your worth. Every person who's not interested feels like evidence that you're not good enough. Your value becomes dependent on whether someone chooses you. But when you're at peace, being single, that whole dynamic disappears. Someone not being interested in you is just someone not being interested. Doesn't mean anything about your worth. It's just a fact, like the weather. Some people are interested, some aren't, and neither has anything to do with your fundamental value as a human being. This is incredibly liberating, because your self-worth stops fluctuating based on external validation. It stabilizes. It becomes internal. You know you're valuable not because someone has chosen you, but because you exist, because you're conscious, because you're alive. And that value doesn't need anyone else to confirm it. From this stable sense of self-worth, you can appreciate interest when it comes without desperately needing it. You can enjoy attention without being dependent on it. You can receive compliments without needing them to prop up a fragile ego. You're already enough. So everything else is just extra. Nice when it happens, but not necessary. This might sound arrogant to people who are still seeking external validation, but it's actually the opposite of arrogance. Arrogance is fragile, defensive, always needing to prove itself. This is just quiet confidence, knowing what you are without needing to prove it or defend it or have anyone else acknowledge it. And from this confidence comes a deeper peace, because you're not at the mercy of other people's opinions anymore. You're not constantly scanning for feedback about whether you're okay. You already know you're okay. And that knowing creates an unshakable foundation that nothing external can disturb. Let me tell you about the holidays, because this is when being single in a coupled world can feel most difficult, when everyone's pairing off for New Year's Eve, coupling up for Valentine's Day, bringing partners to family gatherings, when being single becomes most visible, most noticeable, most apparently problematic. And if you haven't found the peace yet, these times are torture. Every holiday becomes a reminder of what you don't have. Every couple becomes evidence of your failure. Every family gathering becomes an interrogation about why you're still single. But when you've found the peace, these times are just times. New Year's Eve is just another night. Valentine's Day is just marketing. Family gatherings are just family gatherings. You're not measuring your life against the coupled narrative anymore, so the couple-centric holidays don't have power over you. You might even enjoy them more than coupled people do, because you're not stressed about making them perfect for your partner. You're not managing expectations or worrying about whether you got the right gift or planned the right evening. You're just there, present, available for whatever the day brings, without all the performance pressure that couples put on special occasions. And when family asks why you're still single, you can answer honestly, because I'm at peace being single. And when they look confused or concerned, you can just smile, because you don't need them to understand. You know what you know, and their inability to comprehend it doesn't disturb your peace. This is the ultimate test of the strange peace. Can you hold it even when everyone around you thinks you should be disturbed? Can you remain at peace even when the coupled world is insisting you should be dissatisfied? Can you trust your own experience even when it contradicts everything you've been taught about how life should be? If you can, then the peace is real. It's not dependent on circumstances. It's not contingent on others' approval. It's just there, solid, unshakable, a ground to stand on that no amount of social pressure can erode. And from this ground, you can live your life, not the life society says you should live, not the life your family expects, not the life that would look good on social media, but your actual life, the one that's true for you, the one that brings you peace even when it brings you solitude. This is what you found, this strange, beautiful peace of being single when everyone else is coupled. This willingness to walk your own path, even when everyone else is walking in pairs. This courage to be genuinely yourself, even when yourself doesn't fit the narrative. And perhaps the strangest thing about this peace is that it doesn't make you closed to relationship. If anything, it makes you more genuinely available, because you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're already complete. So if someone shows up who can meet you in that completeness, who can dance with you without either of you losing yourselves, wonderful. But if they don't, you're still complete, still at peace, still whole, still living a full, rich, meaningful life that doesn't require a partner to validate it. This is the gift, the strange gift of being single in a world that thinks singleness is a problem. You've discovered it's not a problem at all. It's just another way of being. And for you, in this moment, it's the right way, the peaceful way, the true way. So trust it, honor it, protect it. And don't let anyone convince you that your peace is actually pain in disguise. You know what you feel. You know what's true for you. And that knowing, that peace, that strange contentment in a world that can't understand it, that's one of the most valuable things a human being can find. Hold on to it. Live from it. And know that somewhere there are others like you, walking their own solitary paths, finding their own strange peace, discovering that being single when everyone else is coupled isn't a tragedy, it's a different kind of triumph. A quiet victory over the need to be anything other than exactly what you are.